This week on Aussie JetSetter, we're flying on Australia's arguably most infamous airline to its most infamous destination. That is, of course, we're flying to Australia's most popular overseas holiday destination, the beautiful tropical resort island of Bali. And to get there, we're flying on the most prolific operator of flights between Australia and Bali. That is, of course, Australian low-cost airline Jetstar. But if you were to Google Jetstar and Bali in the One News search, it wouldn't be hard to find out why Jetstar flights to Bali have such a notorious reputation, with numerous incidences of in-flight disruptions happening over the years, where one might assume Jetstar's commonly full flights, often with grumpy passengers and often inebriated holiday makers, is a recipe for onboard disaster, with some even going as far as labelling a flight on Jetstar to Bali as a flight on the Bogan Express. Others humorously name these flights the BINTANG Express. But are the stereotypes associated with Jetstar's Bali flights actually overplayed? As ultimately, unruly passengers are not necessarily the fault of the airline, and it'd be foolish not to think that 99% of passengers on these flights are perfectly behaved. So without further ado, come join me on a recent short 3.5 hour flight between Perth and Denpasar on Jetstar's recently deployed Airbus A321Neo. See whether this flight really lives up to its notorious reputation, what its onboard offering and experience is actually really like. The results may just surprise you. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Perth International Airport. It's going to be a very exciting day today. We're actually going to be doing something for the very first time, quite surprisingly, for the Aussie JetSetter YouTube channel. We're going to be flying up to Perth's favourite holiday island destination, that is of course Bali, Indonesia. Believe it or not, I haven't actually been to Bali since 2012, even though I've been to about 50 countries. So last time I was there, I was literally about 18 or 19 years of age. Believe it or not, also last time I actually went to Indonesia itself was 2014, and that was to Jakarta. So yeah, really excited for this trip. Really can't believe I haven't been to Bali in the time since. Also really looking forward to this trip as well, as it's just a single destination trip. Actually a bit of a boys trip. 4 other of my mates who actually got a really nice villa in Semenya. So yeah, it's just going to be a nice relaxing trip away, not on the move all the time. So actually really looking forward to it. And to get there, we're flying no other than Jetstar. And we're flying on their Airbus A321Neo aircraft. It's only fairly recently that Jetstar have introduced A321Neos on the Perth to Bali route. Used to be serviced by the A320, but yeah, ever since they started their A321Neo base here in Perth, they quickly also added Bali flights to the A321 network, which also covers Singapore, Phuket and Bangkok. Actually, last time I flew the A321Neo with Jetstar was the inaugural up to Singapore. That was a really good flight. One of my most successful reviews yet on the channel, so be sure to check out that link in the description below. And yeah, of course, you'll see in the news, Jetstar often gets a bit of a bad reputation, quite a bit of bad publicity about its Australia to Bali flights and vice versa. Some people even go as far as labelling this flight many different names. Some people call it the BINTANG Express, some people call it the Bogan Express, the Bogan Bus. One of my friends suggests it could even be the Bogan Missile. So yeah, I guess this reputation comes, people party a little bit too hard before and after their flights. Combine this with full flights and cheap fares, always a bit of a recipe for disaster. But yeah, tonight's flight is going to be pretty almost a full flight. So yeah, it's going to be quite a hectic one indeed, I would imagine. We have bought the Flex Plus bundle, so we are flying with Jetstar with the works with an exit row seat. So that should hopefully eliminate some of the concerns I have about tonight's flight. Let's just hope people don't have too much fun before the flight and there's no real dramas on board. So without further ado, let's now head into the airport terminal. We're about 3 hours and 10 minutes before the flight. Let's get checked in. We'll head through immigration. Got to do a TRS refund scheme for some new equipment I bought. Yeah, and then we'll clear security. And yeah, I'll see you at the Spy Lounge. Let's do this. Let's go to Bali. Should be a good one. Before we head into airport terminal, let's have a quick look at our ride JQ116 up to Denpasar, Bali this evening. As you can see, it's pretty well due north of Perth in a straight line. leaving the Pilbara coastline behind just to the west of Carafa, then out over the Indian Ocean into Bali. Great circle distance, 2,569 kilometres, because they have flight time 3 hours and 40 minutes. Today we're going to do it shy over just 3 hours, however. For your information, you'll find Perth International Airport located approximately 10 kilometres east of Perth's central business district. In line with Perth being the 4th most populous city in Australia with a population of around 2.3 million people, unsurprisingly, Perth is also the 4th busiest airport in the country. According to the latest reporting period, the 2023-2024 financial year was the busiest year on record for Perth Airport, with over 16.1 million passengers passing through the 4 terminals here in Perth. Interestingly, of these numbers, the biggest travel group was interstate passengers travelling to and from other ports in West Australia, just over 6 million passengers. Interstate within the rest of Australia was 5.7 million, while overseas passengers amounted to about 4.3 million. As is still the case, there's still 4 terminals here in Perth over 2 different precincts of the airfield. We're flying out of T1 International today, the main international terminal. T1 also has a domestic wing for Virgin Australia departures. It's also T2, mainly interstate flights, and Jetstar. Meanwhile, the old T3 and T4 precinct is almost the exclusive home of Qantas and QantasLink these days, both domestic and international, though albeit Air North do technically still fly from there. Anyway, enough about other airlines and onto the Jetstar check-in experience, which is all manually done here at the kiosk here in Perth. Must say, however, it was surprisingly easy, and yeah, only took a few minutes to be seen, even checked in about 15 minutes ahead of the 3-hour check-in window. Which is really much appreciated because I need to allow a few minutes to do my TRS tourist refund scheme and also want to maximise my time in the Spy Lounge. To be honest, I always tend to get to the airport about 3.5 hours early for flights out of Perth, as I'm always really keen to get straight to the lounge. And yeah, to be totally honest, Jetstar is by far the best experience I've had arriving early. As the only airline I've had in Perth that's allowed me to check in and drop off my bags early. So really can't fault Jetstar whatsoever. Also might note as well, they don't actually physically check your documentation for Bali. There is a QR code on the counter if you want to get a head start with your documents. But yeah, very much your own responsibility to get them sorted. You're not too stressed, however, because you can do all that on arrival if you forget. That being said, I highly recommend you do it all ahead of time. Your e-visa, your e-customs declaration, your health declaration, and also your Bali tourism tax. You do it all online and you get a whole lot of QR codes. Makes it a lot easier traveling through the airport. Anyway, let's now go through security, immigration, and also process that TRS refund. Not very busy here at about 1:30 on a Saturday afternoon. So security and immigration only took a few minutes. TRS counter was left unattended, so I just pressed the bell and someone came straight away to process my claim. Only took a few minutes because there's no one else there, and I got a tourist refund scheme of about $70 from purchases totaling around $700 made in the last 60 days. These included 2 new hard drives as I was simply running out of space filming all these videos. Also bought a new pair of hiking shoes, a new backpack, and even a waterproof dry bag, which always comes in handy when traveling to tropical countries because you never know when you might get caught in a monsoonal rainstorm. So I always recommend utilising the TRS as a bit of a hack to save money when travelling overseas. As long as you spend over $300 in one or more transactions at the same retailer with the same ABN, you can claim the tax back when you leave the country within 60 days. If you are returning to Australia with said goods, they do have to, however, be worth under $900, otherwise you have to pay all the tax back. And you can claim at more than one retailer, long as it's over $300 in one or more transactions at each retailer. So my advice, utilise the airport duty-free shops only to buy liquor, perhaps cigarettes if you smoke. Don't really think anything else is better value. Better just to buy at retail and claim the tax back at the airport. Anyway, it's now onto the Spy Lounge once again, conveniently located adjacent to Gate 53, immediately after you proceed through duty free. Won't do a full review once again on the lounge today, as I am with a group of mates who I've been able to guest in through my priority pass. I got in for free, got them in at a reduced rate. Turned out to be around about 50 Australian dollars for them, which is a pretty decent reduction considering the walk-in price is $82 or online $75. My mates hadn't really been to a lounge before, so I really spent the time more telling them about the ins and outs of the lounge rather than filming a specific review. But long story short, once again, a really good experience here at the lounge. Reasonably decent buffet, also fully tended bar with a good selection of house drinks available, also barista made coffee. Got a few plates of food while I was in the lounge. Started on what turned out to be some sort of vegetarian stir fry. Tasted better than it looked. Also got the Bodo chicken as well, which was fairly decent. Usually when at the lounge, I'm usually on my own, so usually make a beeline for the viewing deck area, which is absolutely amazing for plane spotting. But yeah, we spent most of the time today underneath that absolutely massive, really impressive Perth sign. Really much better for groups there than in the viewing terrace area. Anyway, we did make our way up eventually to the viewing terrace area, where you can see our Jetstar A321Neo coming in from Bali now. So looking at the flight records for this aircraft, it's pretty much been tasked with a double return trip to Bali today. Left Perth around about 7 o'clock in the morning before it's now returning, as you can see. Then making a return trip up to Bali, where we're due to leave at 4:40 PM, getting into Bali about 8:40 in the evening. Then return back to Perth shortly after, getting in about 1 o'clock, 1:30 the next morning. Anyway, seeing we've got such an amazing view of our aircraft right here from the Spy Lounge viewing terrace, let's go over the aircraft information for our very new Airbus A321Neo. We're travelling on Victor Hotel, Oscar Yankee Foxtrot. First delivered direct to Jetstar Airways Australia, straight off the production site in Toulouse, France in June 2024. As we're travelling in late May, this means this aircraft hasn't even quite reached 1 year of age. Also from the lounge you could see another Jetstar A321Neo, which was a little bit of mystery as there was no other Jetstar A321Neo flights scheduled out of Perth internationally at the time. If I recall back correctly to check-in, did remember there was an international domestic flight continuing on to Adelaide, so that's where it was going. So that would be a really cool flight I think to review in the future, quite a unique one indeed. Anyway, we are playing now, taxiing to the gate, and probably not much time left to spend in the lounge. Time for a little bit more food and a couple of drinks with the boys, which probably turned out to be a little longer than expected as the flight was delayed a minor 20 minutes, but not too worried at this point because my final destination is Bali. But anyway, lo and behold, after about 2.5 solid hours in the lounge, really quite enjoyed it. Mates were a little bit hesitant really whether they get their $50 value worth, but I think they certainly did in the end. So yeah, we're now down at boarding, where we're going to be boarding from gate 55 today. Always interesting seeing a flight to a domestic destination from an international terminal here in Australia, but it's not as uncommon as you may think. For a start, there's flights to Cocos and Christmas Island here from Perth that leave from the international terminal. In addition, you got the seasonal Qantas QF3, which goes from Sydney to Rome via Perth. Also got another service, QF34, which goes from Sydney to Paris, also via Perth. The flight from Perth to London, however, no longer originates in Melbourne. That is, of course, QF9, which is Qantas's most iconic flight in my opinion, and still will be until Operation Project Sunrise finally gets underway. Anyway, on to boarding. It looks like it's going to be a very full flight up to Denpasar, Bali tonight. Of the whole aircraft, I counted only about 5 or 6 spare seats left on the seat mat. So very much glad I've spent the time in the Spy Lounge rather than at a very busy, overcrowded airport bar. Also very grateful I've got the exit row seat. Anyway, despite the supposed 20-minute delay, we really do board not that late at all, maybe only a few minutes behind schedule. Even though the delay came up on the Perth Airport boards and website, wasn't really officially announced, so maybe they're waiting for other people to connect from other flights, you just don't know. Anyway, welcome aboard our Jetstar A321Neo aircraft, looking very fresh, almost straight off the production line only about a year ago. Anyway, on board you'll find 232 Recaro BO 3710 lightweight slimline seats, ranged in a very standard all economy class free configuration. Unlike Jetstar's more traditional medium to long haul 787 Dreamliner, there's no business class installed, and it doesn't seem like Jetstar are thinking of having business class going forward in the future with the rollout of these new aircraft. Anyway, seat pitch comes in a very standard, fairly tight 28 inches, pretty standard for low cost carriers, though it does feel a little bit more spacious due to the slimline design. Seat width is 18 inches, which is also pretty standard. Today, however, I'm seated in 29A, the rear further exit row seat, and legroom here, as you can see, it pretty is the most spacious seat on aircraft. On the inaugural flight up to Singapore, I was on the other side on 29F, still very spacious, but you got the jump seat in front of you for the cabin crew to sit at takeoff and landing. Unlike a regular row, there is no seat back tray table at this row, instead it pops out from the right hand side of your armrest. Aside from that, there is also no seat back pocket for the in-flight literature, so there's one big pocket on the left hand side consisting of free safety cards, free menus and free air sickness bags, so very much my duty to distribute them to my seatmates. Obviously there's one big elephant in the room with this seat, and that is there's no proper window. Did know this at time of booking and selecting my seat, but yeah, having the Flex Plus bundle did entitle me to an extra legroom seat, and this was pretty well the only thing left available. Did leave check-in to the last minute just in case I could select a regular row, maybe get a whole row to myself, even if it wasn't exit row. But yeah, absolutely nothing available unfortunately. But yeah, if you did have a choice between 29A and 29F, 29A is definitely far more superior, because at a pinch, if you do lean forward, you can still get a bit of a pinhole view through the smaller pinhole exit row window. Meanwhile, at 29F, your only chance is to film from the window behind, which is very difficult indeed. Anyway, as we don't have a full window, I won't film the whole taxi and takeoff out of Perth today. But what better time now to sit back, relax and enjoy the best glimpses that I've got. Then once in the air, I'll go over what you can expect on board on the Jetstar A321Neo on a short haul flight up to Bali, Indonesia from beautiful Perth, Western Australia.
Denpasar. My name is Kong and I am your customer service manager on today's flight. And on behalf of the team, it's a pleasure to welcome you all. Flying out to Denpasar this afternoon is Captain Gear alongside the first class steward. The flight time to Denpasar is 3 hours and 14 minutes, 5 hours and 14 minutes. Captain Gear has switched off the seatbelt sign. You are now free to move about the cabin. However, it is a Jetstar requirement that you keep your seatbelt fastened when you sit it, just in case we encounter any unexpected turbulence. Electronic equipment such as laptop computers, PDAs, and some music devices may now be switched on. Only mobile phone and phone capability may be switched on, or the mobile phones must remain switched off for duration of the flight. For those of you who are familiar with Airbus A321Neo aircraft, we have 3 toilets on board, 1 at the front of the aircraft and 2 at the rear. As a reminder, the consumption of no alcohol, including any duty-free items, is strictly prohibited. Smoking in any part of the aircraft is an offense under ocean law and will comply and certify some prosecution. And for your own safety, sleeping on the floor is not permitted at the coast of the action road.
With those post-departure announcements now out of the way, let's look at our onboard Jetstar menu. As you can see, very much the same menu as what you find on domestic flights in Australia. Fairly standard range of drinks, snacks, a few hotter options and pastries, light meals. You also got hot meals available for purchase, such as the lasagna. If you do want a hot meal, however, you're much better pre-ordering it so you don't miss out. Also, if you do get a Flex Plus bundle such as me, you do get an included meal, choice of lasagna or the teriyaki noodles. As you can see, prices are far from cheap, typical buy on board prices for any low cost airline. A couple of dollars cheaper, however, in my opinion, than Virgin Australia. Now, as we quickly cruise up the coastline of West Australia, we're absolutely treated to some spectacular sunset views. This is where the window seat really would have come handy. Yeah, to be honest, not really a deal breaker not having a window on this flight. It's only about the first half an hour of the flight where we've got any light. The rest of it's a night flight up to Bali with very little to see outside anyway. My advice when filming out of such a small window so far in front of you, the best bet is to use about 1.5 times zoom on your iPhone. You will lose a bit of quality compared to the 3-time telephoto. Yeah, generally just got a better, more stabilised shot. Anyway, onto the seating. One of my mates has just temporarily left his seat. So yeah, as you can see, very much a hard leather slimline seating on Jetstar. Not going to be around the bush. It is not very comfortable at all. Absolutely no adjustable headrest either. If you are looking for USB charging, still available at the exit row. So you're not in the seat in front of you, however, it's to the right hand side, just at the bottom of the seat between the two of them. Anyway, now let's have a look at the onboard restroom on the A321Neo. On this aircraft, you'll find one lavatory at the forward front of the aircraft and 2 at the rear. Despite being a very new aircraft, very much a stock standard lavatory. Nothing too bad about it, but nothing to write home about either. Also got a baby change table as well. So overall, in pretty good nick. Floor did seem to be a little bit spongy, however, so that's never ideal. Anyways, back to the seat now. Really getting the hang of getting some really cool new perspective shots filming out this tiny little pinhole window. Anyway, on to this evening's meal service. Pre-ordered and pre-selected meals get served first, and the Flex Plus bundle am entitled to a pre-ordered meal at no additional charge. I got the beef lasagna. The other option was the vegetable teriyaki noodles. Probably didn't win any awards for presentation, especially coming in a cardboard box, but to be totally honest, it certainly tasted much better than it looked. Really, actually quite a hearty lasagna. Really enjoyed it and would have given it a solid 8 out of 10. Along with that, you also got a complimentary hot drink. So I just got a white coffee, and yeah, pretty much tasted exactly like that. Just filter coffee, so nothing out of this world, but wouldn't expect anything either on Jetstar, so more than happy. Aside from that, not much more to report about this flight, other than it's been a very smooth and uneventful flight. Haven't had to worry about getting out my own entertainment or anything like that. Just chatted with mates and the time's gone by really quickly. As the last bit of light outside really starts to fade, do order in-flight refreshment. Do go for the Byron Bay Premium Lager. Cost me $12, and yeah, it's perfectly reasonable offer for this style of flight. Not actually a bad beer, quite mild tasting, but yeah, got a bit of flavour and yeah, pretty refreshing nonetheless. That being said, if you're going to spend $12 on Australian buy on board airline, you're probably better getting the Balta XBA that Virgin Australia have, much more flavourful beer. And just like that, only about 3 or so hours in there, we're finally about to make our final descent into Bali. So let's hear a few pre-arrival announcements from our pilot and a few glimpses of our arrival, the best I could see into Bali. Then once on the ground, I'll go over my final thoughts and verdict about today's Jetstar A321 flight to Bali.
On behalf of here at Jetstar, I'd like to thank you all for choosing to fly with us today. We trust you enjoy your time in Bali, and we look forward to having you on board until you choose to fly. Welcome back to Jetstar London.
Has come to complete stop and the captain has switched off the seatbelt sign. As we will be disembarking by a narrow bridge today, if your mobile phone system reach, you may now turn it on, but please ensure your seatbelt remain fastened. We will be disembarking by the first left-hand door. Please follow direction of Jetstar cabin crew and staff. As a reminder that smoking is strictly prohibited. Take care when the window of luggage and baggage may move during the flights. And finally, on behalf of Captain Gear and the rest of the crew, we'd like to thank you for flying with Jetstar today. It's certainly been a pleasure to have you on board. Look forward to see you again soon. Thank you and good night.
And just like that, great to be back finally in Bali, Indonesia for the very first time since 2012. So probably about 13 years. Last time I was actually in Indonesia was 2014 in Jakarta. So either way you look at it, great to be back in Indonesia. Anyway, as we make the recently lengthy way to passport control and baggage claim, let me just overall reflect about today's Jetstar flight in terms of value for money. So I got the Flex Plus bundle, booking this flight approximately 2 months ahead of schedule. All up, including the Flex Plus bundle, cost me 335 Australian dollars. The return ticket also was even cheaper. Base fare was a little over $100, with the Flex Plus it was $233. So all up, my return flight to Bali cost $568, and in Jetstar terms pretty well got the works. Obviously everyone's individual needs are different, but yeah, pretty well whenever I fly Jetstar these days I go Flex Plus bundle. Always get a really good sale fare when the fare is really cheap. That way getting the Flex Plus bundle, adding it on, doesn't seem to cost too much more in the grand scheme of things. You get 20 kilos checked luggage, get any available seat on the plane, including extra row and extra legroom seats. So yeah, you can nab one of those for no extra charge if they're available. Get included food and drink, which on an international flight you actually get to select a pre-booked hot meal and hot drinks. That's really good. And what really is a winner for me with Flex Plus is the flexibility that the fare brings. So basically you're free to change the date and time of your flight for no additional fee. Just pay any fare difference. What is also really reassuring as well is you can cancel your flight before departure for a full refund in terms of the credit, which you can use to book other flights on Jetstar within a 3-year period. So having this flexibility is really handy, especially when you see our dirt cheap sale fare well and truly advance of time. You're not 100% sure you're going to be able to do the trip. You can take advantage of it and yeah, just cancel for a credit later on if really need be. In fact, I actually cancelled my return flight to Perth on Jetstar because I saw a really cheap last minute deal on AirAsia or Jetstar flight to Darwin Port, just over $100. So that's what I did instead and cancelled the return flight. On top of this, you can even change your origin or destination with no additional fee. Just pay the fare difference, of course. Did have a look at this option. You do appear to have to ring up the Jetstar call centre for that. And finally, the icing on the cake is Qantas points. With this bundle, you do get them. You get 1,825 Qantas points plus 25 status credits. Nothing to sneeze about if you're in the game of collecting points. So when you look at the wider picture, $335 for this flight, pretty well a flight with the works in terms of a budget carrier experience. Really do think Jetstar provided a very competitive product at this price. And yeah, the flexibility that they afford on this ticket type really is hard to match from the other Indonesian and Malaysian airlines operating on this route. But be sure to check out my review from Bali to Darwin coming out on the channel soon if it isn't already, for a bit of a comparison as to how the main competitor on the Indonesia to Australia route compares to Jetstar. Anyway, on to the arrival experience at Bali Airport, which is unsurprisingly the second busiest airport in the whole of Indonesia besides Jakarta, coming in at around shy under 22 million passengers according to the latest statistics. So first impressions after arriving here first time in about 13 years, must say really pleasantly surprised. Everything seems to be running smoothly and yeah, with all due respect, seems to be a bit more professionalised. It seems, although I'm not 100% entirely sure, that the terminal buildings have since been replaced and or upgraded. Anyway, to hopefully expedite the arrival process, I've done all my documentation, paid for my e-visa and the Bali tourism tax and all other customs and health forms online, hopefully to speed up the process, which was very much the case. Very much enjoyed our expedient arrival into Bali. The e-visa worked a treat. Already linked to my passport meant I could go straight through the e-gate. It was just a matter of showing the customs e-declaration QR code to the official present at customs. Was shown straight out the door. No sign they checked my health declaration or that I paid my Bali tourism tax. Anyway, let's now head to our villa where we'll get our final thoughts and verdict from me and my mates about how today's flight was and how their experience getting a visa on arrival was. And just like that, folks, welcome back to beautiful Bali, Indonesia. Great to be back here, believe it or not, for about the first time in probably about 13 years or so now. I haven't stepped foot on this beautiful island, believe it or not, since 2012. Anyway, it's going to be a bit of a really cool, enjoyable boys week here in Bali. We're staying in this beautiful villa here in Seminyak that you can see, 4 bedroom, 4 bathroom. Also got a really cool communal area with kitchen and a beautiful pool behind us. Upstairs there's also a projector, sort of a bit of a cinema room as well, so that's really cool. All up, it's about $60 a night each chipping in for this villa with 4 people, so pretty hard to complain. Also get daily housekeeping as well, so that's really good. Alright guys, got a few colleagues here staying in the villa with me. May as well get some peer reviews on the flight. So yeah, we've got Gavin to the left and James to the far left. So just a few impromptu thoughts. Let's start with the overall check-in experience. How would you give it out of 10, Gavin?
I would say it's a very solid 8.
8, decent. Yourself, James?
I would go with a solid 9.
Solid 9? I'd definitely go a solid 9 as well, because they let us check in actually before the flight actually opened. So that was really sensational from Jetstar, in my opinion. Let's go to the onboard experience. So let's start with the seating. We're all in the 29 exit row. So yeah, one of the most spacious rows on the plane. Obviously, I had the ultimate seat with almost unlimited legroom. But yeah, how was the middle seat out of 10?
It was very good. I'd say that would be a 9.5 for my
Oh,
experience.
9.5.
9.5
Wow.
is very
How
good
do
experience.
you think, James?
I would say the extra leg room is sensational, so I'll give it a 9.
9. Yeah, I'll definitely give my seat. Can't give it a 9 because it doesn't really have a window, even if it had that peephole. But yeah, it is the most spacious seat on the Jetstar flight, and it doesn't have that crew jump seat in front, so that's pretty decent. Slight mark down for not having the window, but yeah, I'll give it a solid 8.5. Just the seating itself isn't that comfortable, but with that legroom, you can't complain. Let's go to the onboard food. We all had Flex Plus bundles, so we all got an included meal. I think we all got the lasagna, so yeah, I thought the lasagna was pretty decent. No awards for presentation, but yeah, it tasted better than it looked. Solid 8 out of 10. Would you concur with that?
Yes, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
8 out of 10?
Yeah, I'd probably go a 7, just because I thought it could have been a little bit hotter. But apart from that, it was very good.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Probably could have been a bit hotter, but yeah, fair feedback there. How about the entertainment, folks? I didn't have any luck getting it going. Any luck with you?
No luck with entertainment, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't bring any entertainment, but I found like the flight went really quickly.
That's good. Yeah, just chatting along. But yeah, none of us could seem to get the QR code to go. So even if we wanted to pay for the entertainment, it didn't seem to work on this flight. So I guess that's one downside. Buy any food or beverage on the flight? What did you think of the prices?
Yes, I brought vodka with a Pepsi, and I found it pretty alright. It was a different vodka that I've ever tasted, but it was nice. So definitely liked it. So,
Yeah.
yes.
And the prices?
The price was, I'd say it was pretty good, yeah, for it.
Yeah.
So even though
Think
it's
it
like
was
$15.
It's pretty expensive,
that's-
but yeah, I guess that's what you got to pay in the skies.
Yeah, that's it.
Yourself?
I had a couple of Byron Bay lagers.
Oh, yes.
They were about $14, so I thought, yeah, it's a pretty reasonable price for a flight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might have been $12 if I remember correctly. So not the cheapest, but yeah, I guess what you got to pay on Jetstar. Condition of the plane, pretty new plane. I'd definitely give it a pretty decent, maybe 8.5. What do you reckon, guys?
Yes, I agree with you there. I'd also give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that was different for me is we didn't have the pouch in front of us to put anything in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, no, that's very, very true. Extra row seat does have USB-C and USB-A charging, I think. Not sure if these guys realised, did you?
Not really, no.
Because you kind of arrived with a flat battery, didn't you? Almost, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I charged up my phone to 100%,
Yeah.
so it wasn't.
So yeah, just remember there is charging on board in the exit row. You just got to look to the under your seat. Finally, we all went to the Spy Lounge in Perth. These guys were guested in. They got a reduced entry. How did you find your experience in the lounge?
It's very good. It's very good,
Yeah.
especially with the view of the runway as well. It's phenomenal seeing all the planes fly in, especially the one that we caught as well. So I'd definitely give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5, yeah.
Yeah,
Yourself?
absolutely. I think $50 is good value for money for the amount of food and drinks that we're able to have.
Yeah.
And it's up to a 3-hour stay, so very reasonable experience.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'd definitely give the Spy. I think we're all on a Unity ticket. 8.5, pretty decent overall. And lastly, I did the e-visa online and basically did all the paperwork prior to arriving. Was quite a bit of a hassle, but admittedly it did make the arrival process into Bali very easy. Just went straight through the e-gate, no hassle whatsoever. And yeah, just showed my customs e-declaration QR code on arrival. Very, very hassle-free. Probably from getting off the plane to being in the arrival hall, maybe about half an hour or so. And yeah, we got a grab, and yeah, it was maybe 150,000, 160,000 into Seminyak. Thought it was pretty reasonable for 4 people with luggage. But yeah, my colleagues just decided to go visa on arrival. So I think it was maybe about 20 minutes longer or so that took them to get through. But yeah, overall, your thoughts on the arrival process?
Yes,
Getting the visa on arrival?
it took a little bit longer, but it was definitely worth it. So yeah, either way, like if you have to do it like beforehand or even in the airport, you can just get through. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I would say I was pleasantly surprised. I think past experiences in Bali, it's been longer queues. I felt like I could go to a counter pretty straight away. Yeah. And then it was probably just the customs declaration that took some time on the computer. Yeah. But apart from that, it was a very seamless process.
So yeah, I think the advice there is if you do go the effort of doing it online, it just will make your arrival experience a little bit more smoother in Bali. Do take note, however, you can create an account these days. So that does mean basically they save you details the next time, so you don't have to keep re-uploading all your passport details and your photo and all that sort of stuff. So I guess you just go on there and pay the fee. It's all very easy. Don't forget, you got to do your Bali tourist visa as well. Just pay that online or prior to leaving Bali and it will be all sweet. Yeah, either way, if you just rock up, getting a visa on arrival didn't seem to be too hasslesome for these guys. So overall, final thoughts on the flight, final score. I'd give Jetstar a pretty solid 8.5 for the experience last night. What do you reckon, Gavin?
I'd give it an 8 out of 10 myself.
8 out of 10?
Yes.
I would go 9. Yeah, there's not much to really, that could have been better, in my opinion.
No, that's awesome. Thanks very much, guys, for helping us out there. So yeah, I think we're pretty well all on a Unity ticket. If we were to average the score, would we all agree maybe an average score, let's give it 8.5 out of 10? Are we in agreement with that?
Yeah, I agree.
8.5. Yeah, so very solid flight indeed with Jetstar. So there you have it, folks. Great overall experience on Jetstar last night. My mates who travelled on the flight very much concur the same way as me. So yeah, not much to fault about. Good overall, fun, cheerful flight on Jetstar. Hard to complain. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this flight review up to Bali last night, first time flying up to Bali in a very long time now, I know I certainly have enjoyed it. If you have as well, really appreciate it. Could give it a like, leave your comments down below, share amongst your family and friends, and of course, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, if you do enjoy my content, where it brings you to my channel, really would appreciate it if you could just flick that bell and notification button on, and of course subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, you also visit my website, aussiejetsetter.com.au, play some flight reviews, industry news, destination guides, frequent flyer hacks, and more. In the meantime, also don't forget to check out my dedicated socials, Aussie JetSetter Instagram page, catch up what I'm doing around the world in real time. Maybe even check out my dedicated Discord server for fans community of the channel to discuss all things aviation and travel. But from here in beautiful Bali, Indonesia, thanks so much for watching last night's A321Neo Jetstar flight experience. But until next one, safe travels wherever that might take you.